What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Red Pill Philosophy. Today I am joined by a guest. As you can tell, he is a quote unquote black man. Now, I'm not sure if he even wants to talk about race in this podcast. We probably don't even have to go there because, personally, ideally, I'd like to look past race because I feel like when you get caught up into racial discussions, you start making sweeping generalizations, and you get caught in the surface of things instead of looking a little bit deeper. So, dude, would you like to say your name, or maybe you'd prefer to be anonymous, and I guess, just tell us what you want to talk about today.
My name is Tayshawn Davis. I'm from New York City. What I about is the Trump values and why I'm pro-Trump. Also want to talk about the educational system and how I hate it and how because I just got out of it. So I just want a little bit of advice from the red pill here, Chris.
Well, it's actually interesting that you mentioned Trump and education in the same sentence. And the reason that I find that interesting is because I think our modern educational system is closely woven into the economy. They sort of go hand in hand. In fact, I would say that the only reason the mainstream public school system exists is to ensure that you can get a job. I mean, when you go to school, I mean, they sugarcoat it with about learning, it's about, teaching kids all this. But really, it's the main justification for school is go to school, get the diploma or the degree, and then hopefully you'll get a job to make money. So, you know, that's why I think Trump is relevant to this discussion because he's a freaking economic powerhouse. Okay, so he's had a few business failures. Well, shit, everyone does. I mean, failure is part of success. The secret to success is failure. Newsflash. I mean, no one who's achieved major success ever got there because they never failed once. Whether you're a singer, whether you're a Trump-type businessman, real estate mogul, doesn't matter what it is. Trial and error and failure is a natural part of succeeding. You cannot succeed if you're not willing to fail. And ironically, the mainstream school system, it de-incentivizes failure. The mainstream school system tells you that if you fail, you get an F. And that's the worst thing in the world. And from that moment on, everything you do as a student in class is to avoid the big fat F, to avoid failure. But avoiding failure is avoiding risk. And risk,
Right.
exactly, risk goes hand in hand with your personal growth. You cannot expand and grow yourself if you don't take a risk. I'm taking a risk right here, right now. Putting my face out there, letting the world see me. Some people are going to criticize me. Some people are going to hate me. Some people are going to make fun of my beard. And I take my beard very personally and very seriously. So, everything is risk. If you're working out at the gym and you say, okay, today I'm going to bench press, I'm going to surpass my record. If you're taking a risk when you're putting on an extra plate of weight and you are pushing yourself mentally and physically beyond what you're used to. But what is the result of taking that risk? Progress, growth, more strength, more success. So it is insane. And so, the reason I brought up Trump is because, I think if Trump gets elected, assuming he's trustworthy, which I can't read his mind, and even though here I am
Right.
wearing a Donald Trump t-shirt, finally someone with balls, guys, you can click the link below, you can get that shirt. At the end of the day, I also have a certain grain of skepticism. What if this guy is a fraud and he's going to be a sellout? But assuming Trump is going to do what he says he's going to do, there's going to be a boom of economic opportunity, I believe. It might even bring in a new golden age. The things he talks about, trade deals, the way we send millions and millions, billions of dollars to foreign countries that are wealthier than we are with access to oil supplies that we don't have, but they don't give us anything in return, and they call us a bunch of evil Yankee, pig dogs to get the hell out of their country, but they take our money. Imagine if we rein in all that cash and we use it here in this country, there's going to be a boom of economic opportunity, and wealth is going to flow. So I think more important than fixing the educational system is fixing the economy. And once you fix the economy, the educational system won't even be a major issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. The economic system is pretty crazy. The debt that we owe is about, damn, and it's growing like faster every day. So I think we need to fix that first
And a
before
big
we
chunk
can.
of that debt, by the way, is from student loans.
Student loans, right? Exactly. That's the same point that I'm debating about is like, cause I'm like thinking about going into college and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
that is the student loan debt is that the thing that's keeping me back. Like, oh, do I want to go to school? With all this like and gain up all this debt and then have a degree, a piece of paper that's not even gonna like like guarantee me this or that. So I'd rather just like, like stick it out and just like follow my own passion because I think the reason I'm going to school is for my parents' sake. So
Hmm.
it's not really for me and what I want to do. What I want to do is like I want to be a writer and stuff like that. Like what do you call those people? Activists, not like the Black Lives Movement matter. Those people,
Okay.
no. But like step into that field. So I don't think because school, I don't think they can teach you how to, since you the held down thing, like you being held down in school, people telling you what to do and stuff like that. I don't think that helps you unlock to be a greater person. I think it's just to teach you how to obey and stuff like that. So
Oh, I agree. I mean, anybody who's followed me for a while knows I recently wrote a book called Success Without School, Think Outside the Classroom. I'll put the link to it below. And, I talk about all that, and there's two ways to look at this idea that school trains you to be obedient little slaves who just do what they're told, which is ultimately disempowering. There's two ways to look at it. Number one is the innocent approach, which is school isn't deliberately designed to dumb down people and make them obedient slaves, which is exactly what corporate and government powers want from their citizens, obedient slaves. It's just school accidentally did it because they didn't know what they were doing. And, when they tell you to sit still and to shut up and to do what you're told, conditioning you from an early age to be a robotic, order following slave, maybe it's just because school had no choice. But then there's the alternative interpretation, which is that it's a more sinister thing. It's a more deliberate, that school, from its inception, a modern school system in America, was designed deliberately by the elites of society 70, 80 years ago to turn children into little order following, moldable slaves that could be perfect little cogs to fit into somebody's machine when they graduate with their degree or their diploma. And there's a lot of interesting historical, proof that school, the modern school system in America, the mainstream school system, was deliberately designed to dumb down, to turn children into moldable little slaves. There's
yeah,
a Yeah.
yeah. Let me tell you, right? School definitely. I felt dumbed down in there. Definitely because like, especially like when like February came around, and that's supposed to be the month of Black History, stuff like that. The only thing we were taught like here in like the New York City state is like about freaking like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Like that's the only thing. Like every time that year came around, that's the only thing that that they were allowed to talk about. They said, "Oh, it's part of the curriculum." But me, I thought about why we not talking about like Marcus Gandhi, like Nelson Mandela and stuff like that. We just talking about the same people. Like they're the only important like people of like history. So
It's interesting that you bring that up because I heard another YouTuber who I enjoy his videos a lot. His name is Tommy Sotomayor. And he said in a video recently, he said something like, "Hey, white people, Martin Luther King is your role model, not ours. He's not black people's role model." And I'm not saying that Martin Luther King isn't an admirable person, but I think sometimes just because you're black does not mean that every black person has to have the exact same black role models. The
exactly.
civil rights leaders, the Al
Right.
Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. And I definitely don't fall into the category of like the black people in the same group of like religious like followers that we have to follow. Like Martin Luther King and stuff like that. I don't think that's like because I hate when like people say, "Oh, all black people are the same" and stuff like that, and we're all like ghetto and stuff, like grouping us until it's one stereotypical like agenda and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I bet it must be tough. It must be tough because there's a lot of stereotypes about blacks in America. I mean, like there's the one of the most obvious is like rap culture. That rap was created by black people and that it's mainly a black industry. And if you're not into that kind of music, or if you're not into the sort of like the thug life out element of rap music that basically says, we're all gangsters shooting people, killing people, then how do you feel? How do you feel like you can fit into something? That's why I think black conservatives are so important because, you had that kid that I interviewed yesterday, Quay. He's the 16-year-old Trump supporter who, he's been attacked by so many black people and white people. White liberals have been attacking the shit out of him because he has a different view, because he left the liberal plantation, because he doesn't fit into the nice little box of what it means to be a black person in America. And I'm so admirable of this kid because he's 16 years old. He's black. That makes him a minority in America. I mean, not globally. I heard globally black people are the majority, population numbers wise. But in America,
Right.
they're only about 13% of the population. So he's a minority here. And nonetheless, this kid doesn't seem to give a fuck about any of the people. I mean, people have been making memes about him on the internet, making fun of him, call him, typical things, Uncle Tom, Coon, Sellout, Oreo, all these things, and he just deflects it without even caring, and that's important. That's why I think the kid matters, because man, let's they talk about diversity. Well, let's diversify what it means to be black and to have political views in America. Not every black person has to be a fucking liberal. So let's talk about diversity. Let's give black people some diversity in thought and allow them to be black conservatives without being called a fucking Uncle Tom or an Oreo.
Right. I stopped like caring like ever since I stepped out of that like the black box or whatever you want to call it. Like I stopped caring because people gonna judge you whether like whoever you support. And this thing about like the politicalness about like Hillary and Trump and stuff like that, that is stupid because people are getting like killed and stuff over which like side they are like, and that's stupid. Like people getting like their hats thrown off and stuff like that. You watch InfoWars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah. So a lot of my sources I watch, it comes from like them. So, and I don't know. That's disgusting to me. Like, have an opinion without like being judged and stuff like that. So I think that's really like that's a disgrace to me. So.
Yeah. What exactly do you mean? Like, what examples do you mean?
Okay. So say like I'll go outside, right? Wearing your Donald Trump shirt, right?
Yeah.
Right, and I would get a lot of comments and stuff like that. Like, and people out here, like, you can't, like, you have to be inside this like box, like, like, because New York City is just like, I don't know, you have to be in this box of, being antisocial and stuff like that, and just going about your business.
Mm-hmm.
And but like they were. It's funny because being together, like, say if I go outside wearing a Trump shirt, right? They would go outside, look at that guy wearing a shirt. One person would comment, probably like a whole like a group of. It would be like you could say like a block party, but everybody would be against me because I'm wearing one shirt, and specifically they won't like it. But I know like deep down they like Trump, but they don't want to come out and say it.
Of course, look, someone wrote an article the other day, and it was the title of the article was 67 times rappers name dropped Donald Trump in their songs, and it's like popular rap music, Ice Cube and other guys, going back 20 years or so. And they used to, a lot of them would mention Donald Trump in their lyrics, and they would mention him in a positive way. They, be like, I'm rich like Donald Trump, or, all these references to Trump in a positive way, in an endearing way.
Yeah.
And for all these decades, Donald Trump was a guy that even like rap culture could identify with and appreciate. But the moment Donald Trump becomes a politician and is running against Democrats, now he's suddenly a racist. Now he's suddenly not cool for black people. It's just interesting. It's bizarre. Why was he cool before, but now he's not cool? And it shows you the mechanisms of the political left.
Yeah, like I think it really comes down to people need to start thinking for themselves, to be honest. Because like I think everybody is so like cooped onto what the media tells them and stuff. Like they don't really dig into the research, you know. So
Hmm.
I think that's like a problem. I like that's a problem for like people because they don't like if you don't research stuff, how you gonna like find out the truth? Like you know the media, I know for a long time been spewing lies ever since like the weather and stuff like that. Like I wanted to find out what the weather was, stuff like that, and then I'll come outside, they'd be like, "Oh, it's sunny," and then it starts raining, and I'm like, "Wow, the news really lied to me," you know? So
They even lie
like
about the weather. That's hilarious.
right, like I don't know. So
Well, it's funny because like a month ago, and I'm going to shamelessly tuck a plug for my shirt into this story, but about a month ago, I was at Sports Authority buying myself a nice yoga mat, and call me a pussy if you want. And the cashier, I walked in there with, this Trump, Donald Trump, finally someone with balls. I walked in there and she asked me, "Oh, you like Trump?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think he's pretty cool." And then she goes, I don't, I think I asked her, "Do you like Trump?" And she's like, "Nah, I don't really follow politics, but I don't like him." And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, how does that make any sense? So you don't follow politics, you don't know what the fuck is going on,
right,
but you know enough to not like him.
I
And
think that's the
yeah,
it's the popular decision to dislike him. So
hmm,
I think that's the case for everybody.
exactly.
Like a
And
lot
you
of
know
people.
what? The reason it's the popular decision, by the way, guys, a link to this Donald Trump shirt is in the description below. But the reason it's so hip and cool and trendy and popular to criticize Donald Trump is because it's what the mainstream media tells you about him. The mainstream media basically says he's evil, he's a racist, he's Hitler. Um,
Which
and
I don't understand how that ties into anything. Like the Hitler thing, why are you comparing Donald Trump to Hitler? Donald Trump didn't kill any Jews and stuff like that. I don't know why they comparing
I
like
guess it's just the theme of some dictatorial authoritarian
the,
like imposing his will. I guess that's what they mean. But it's still an insult to Jewish people, honestly. I mean, you know how many Jewish
right.
people died because of a legitimate Hitler came along one day and killed them? But you're gonna
Mm,
say he's Hitler? I mean, it's actually kind of an insult to Jewish people, but no, it's in the mainstream. It's what the mainstream media tells us. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't follow politics, but one day is sitting in the living room and the TV is on and you happen to hear something about Donald Trump, well, the majority of what you hear about him in those fleeting moments as you're walking by the TV is that he's a racist, he's a bigot, he wants to deport all Mexicans, which is simply not true. This new thing I heard is that he wants to ship black people to Africa. I didn't even hear.
what?
I know
Okay.
it's just insane. They just go crazier and crazier. Next thing they're gonna say that Donald Trump, is fucking Hitler's son or something. They're gonna start saying
Right.
that shit.
And people are eating it up. Like
People are
it's
eating
funny.
it up because they don't
Yep.
follow politics enough, but they believe that anything on the mainstream media must be true because they wouldn't lie to you. Well, fuck, have they lied about Donald Trump?
Definitely. Definitely have lied about Donald Trump. And plus like they're biased against Donald Trump, but they're all for Hillary. That's why I don't really like CNN and stuff like that. Like I don't know. I have to research like certain things. I don't trust the news enough to believe what they're spewing out to me. Like
Yeah, of
I don't want
course.
to just take it at first glance. I need to research it and stuff
Of
like that.
course. No, you know what? That's why the alternative media is exploding right now because people who are active in life and they want to be empowered enough to know what's really going on, they can see right through the mainstream media. So the mainstream media's ratings have been plummeting for months, years. And alternative media like Infowars.com, Alex Jones, who I listen to his radio show almost every day. I love his show. I'm just not ashamed to say it.
Right.
I mean, I'm telling you, his he gets so many freaking viewers. His audience is gigantic.
I'm
So
one of them too. Yep.
yeah,
So
yeah, and so there is an alternative media, and I think people are waking up. And this idea that Hillary has so much support, I think it's a mainstream media lie. And for some reason, the mainstream media still has a grip because when you go to Starbucks and they have TV set up on the wall, they're not going to have Alex Jones. They're going to have
right.
CNN because
CNN,
CNN
NBC.
and MSNBC, they still have this outdated impression on us that they still are the be all end all, the arbiters of what is true and what is not. 10, 15 years ago, so many people only watched television because the internet hadn't really exploded yet. But now that the internet exploded, people are unplugging from the television, but there's still this sort of a lag where the TV and the mainstream media and all these talking heads, they still have this sense of influence over us. But that is crumbling quickly. But as long as every Starbucks you go to, every airport you go to, that's CNN and MSNBC, it kind of gives you an impression that they still have the authority. But it's crumbling quickly.
Yeah, the news, I don't know. Like I'm glad to hear that it's crumbling quickly, because I don't know,
Totally.
people are starting to wake up. So it's just it makes me, feel a lot better about people. So
I agree. I totally agree. I think it really does make it seem like there's actually hope left in the world. Um, Give me
right.
1 second here. I got some little weird message here. Okay. Yeah, it's craziness. So, yeah, I mean, why? So, I guess that kind of ties into what you mentioned before we started, which was humanity is evil or scummy or whatever you said. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, like, to me, I think that's the case because of the social media and stuff like that. Like, they glorify like the bad news, like the bad news. Like, I don't really hear like a lot of good things, like news and like Facebook and stuff like that. Like, they glorify like the bad news. Like, say the parade for Orlando, yeah, that stuff about the gay shooting, stuff like that. They will glorify that, but I don't like. I like hearing good news. Like, I don't like hearing about like deaths and stuff like that. And I think that's the majority of the news these days, or probably has been for a long time. So.
Well, I mean, it's fear porn. So, if you have to get audiences' attention, you need the crazier the news is, the more likely people are to watch. So when you hear the little sudden bell sound and it says breaking news and it shows you images of a car crash on the highway, that naturally pulls you in because, I mean, even the people on the highway driving by the car crash, that's why traffic always jams up a lot because people slow down to turn and look to see what happened in the fucking car crash. It's a natural human impulse. We're attracted to that because, well, I guess it's not something you see every day. You don't always see some dismembered body on the side of the fucking street.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's fear porn. It's what they feed you, and I think some people are addicted to it. There's people who don't do nothing but watch television, and they just wait for the next breaking news alert to find out what terrible shit is going on around the world.
Right.
So yeah, it is fear porn, and it is kind of perpetuated. But I think that there is this growing movement of empowered people who do not want to be in that low vibration of just watching bad shit happen on the news. And so for that reason, along with this, I don't know, call it a coincidence, but it seems as the internet has exploded and liberated information, there's also been this growing movement of empowered people who want to empower themselves. I see all this alternative health stuff. I see there's this new entrepreneurial spirit where more and more people want to start their own businesses. More and more
Yeah,
people.
I want to start my business, a business too, because I noticed that I don't want to be under somebody, like being a slave to a paycheck as a lot of people make it, so.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like 3 fucking years ago, I released a video called "Quit Your Job, Do What You Love," and one of the things I say in the video is like, look, if you're the kind of person who doesn't mind working for somebody else, who you're happy doing a 9 to 5 job, doing sort of repetitive labor to get your paycheck, if that's the
Right.
life you want to live, then go ahead. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with that. But my point is that there's a lot of people who hate the 9 to 5. This the cliche, the archetype of the guy in the fucking cubicle working the job he hates like a little rat in a little freaking, mouse wheel. For a lot of people, they don't like it, and that's who my message is for. It's for the people who have trouble in that system, who think maybe I can do something else, but might be a little bit afraid to take that leap of faith, take that risk. Again, risk being so important to personal
Right.
evolution. It's just critical. So you said you wanted to be like a writer or something like that?
Yes, I want to be like what do you call like the journalist, but I don't want to spew out like dumb stuff. Like I want to like what do you call it? Like I want to be like a positive like activist too. Like
Uh-huh.
because like I think my voice is like for that type of stuff. So
Right. So what kind of activism, and is there any specific like field or subject that interests you?
I want to just like I don't know. I want to talk about like a lot of general topics, but I also want to be that uplifting
Mm-hmm.
person for like
Right.
people that's like down and slums like that. And out here in New York City, I see a lot of like poor people and stuff like that. And I'll talk to them because like poor people don't like people just pass them and stuff like that over here a lot. Like I'm telling you, like a lot. And me, I actually have the courage to go down and like talk to somebody because like when I do that, they just look at me like, oh, what are you doing? Like so it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm doing something you're not. So
Right.
so
It's funny. My brother lives in New York, and he tells me crazy stories about the fucking homeless people there, and like some of them are just like crazy. Like they'll like start peeing in the subway. Like they'll just
right,
pull their pants down to start peeing, or fucking. He's just told me some crazy subway stories with the homeless people.
right.
But yeah, man, that's cool, man. But how do you think you could integrate that into writing?
Uh, well, I pretty much have a creative mind, so I think that is gonna like when they tell me their stories, like I can turn it into like my own story, but like with like twist and plot twist and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
comic books and stuff like that. So
Right, right, right. So you want to do also like fiction writing.
yeah, fiction writing.
That's good. That's interesting. And again, this is the time to do it, especially creative work. I mean, now more than ever. Look, how about this? Look, I actually really like writing. That's one of my passions. But with Red Pill Philosophy, I found out that video editing is also one of my big passions. I even like it a little bit more than writing. But let's see, graduated in 2006. So that was about, so 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, I graduated high school. And what I wanted to be back then was a writer. I wanted to publish my own fantasy story. I had this idea for this fictional fantasy story. Of course, back then, I guess I didn't have the same ambition I do today. And I never pursued the story. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do it by the end of this year. And I just never fucking did it. But the
Right,
point is that back then, I remember researching how to get your book published. And the only way to get your book published was to submit it to one of the major publishing companies and pray to God that of the millions of submissions they get every year or 2 years, that they find your story from the pile and are so inspired that they choose to publish it, and finally you can make some money as a writer. That was the old days, just 10 years ago. Just 10 little itty bitty years ago. It was a
right.
totally different world, and now we live in a different world. We live in the age of fucking Patreon.
Or and the age of like everybody thinks they know everything, like know nothing. Like I am people like they look down on other people like they like are better than them and stuff like that. But like as a collective, we don't know anything like about the world. So people need to get that into their heads. That's what I think. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, you can go really deep in that direction. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go in the direction of people don't know anything about this world. I mean, we can start talking about the universe and how we don't know what the fuck we're doing here, but that might be a totally separate conversation.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely, definitely.
yeah, that's another one I would love to go into. But uh, sticking down to earth with our conversation,
Mm.
yeah, I forgot what the fuck I was saying, so I'll just leave it at that.
Right. Um. I want to talk about. Let's see. Let's talk about the Orlando incident. What do you think about it? Like, what are your views about yeah, about it? Like,
I think it's insane. I think it's crazy that so many people killed. I think it's a little fishy that one guy managed to kill 50 people and
that's what
injure
I'm saying. Yo.
50 more. I mean, a little weird to me. And I don't think it's weird because I watched one of those conspiracy YouTube channels. It's weird to me because as I was watching the live reports that day, The thought just popped into my head. 50 people is a lot of people. You don't just kill 50
Right.
people. You know how hard it is to kill a person? It's actually, I'm not saying that because I know from personal experience. I
Right.
mean, my only experience of killing people is Call of Duty, and that's not really killing
Right.
people. So, I mean, I would just assume that the human body is quite resilient, that it doesn't just die. It has to bleed out first. You have to have organ failure. I mean, unless you're getting all headshots, people don't just fucking die. The human spirit is quite resilient. So it seems like it's a little too many people. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of fishy to me too. Now that you say it, right? Fishy. Yeah, it's kind of fishy to me too. It's a lot of like one person killing 50 people. Like I couldn't see that in my like I would imagine like they would gang up on the guy or something. Like you know.
Yeah, and Mike Cernovich, he's a guy on Twitter, he actually really talked about this, and he did some of the math on how much ammunition the guy would have to carry. And it's just like, I think it was like 60 pounds of ammo, and he has to be reloading and loading, and not a single
Right.
person did anything in a nightclub full of 1,000
Then
people.
people, yup.
It is a little fucking bizarre, but then, goddamn, I mean, if that conspiracy is true, that they're covering something up, for example, some people who say it's a hoax, the problem with the hoax people and the hoax theories, which they've had them ever since Sandy Hook, and every mass shooting since then, including the Elliot Rodger guy, my problem with those theories is that they always provoke more questions than they answer. The moment you say it was a cover-up hoax by the Illuminati or the powers that be or whoever, but then you have all these questions. So people are saying, "Oh, but one of the victims, one of the family members of the victims from the Orlando shooting, it was like a mother who didn't know if her son was dead or alive. She was crying in front of the cameras. People are saying, "Oh, but look, she's fake crying. There's no tears." And I'm saying, okay, number one, if she's an actor, number one, why don't they hire better actors? Because ever since Sandy Hook in 2012, people have been saying that they're fake actors and look how bad they act with the fake tears. So you think by now the Illuminati would have figured out, stop using shitty actors. Or
That's right.
at the least they would have said, put some fucking teardrops in their eyes before the interview so they could at least fake fucking cry. So that's one question. Why don't they get better actors? Number two, they say, oh, there's no blood at the crime scene. So you're telling me the Illuminati forgot to buy a few gallons of fake blood and spread it all over the crime scene? Like, who would forget that? If they're powerful enough to control the planet, why aren't they smart and powerful enough to put some fake fucking blood at the crime scene? It only creates more questions, these hoax theories.
Right. Now the Illuminati thing, the hoax thing is, I think those things are ridiculous.
A little over the top, I think so.
Yeah,
too.
over the top. Because then, like the hoax people will find anything, like anything about any certain like situation. Oh, this is especially the Illuminati confirmed thing. I'm sure you've heard about that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I
It's
have.
ridiculous. Like find anything with a triangle or someone covering an eye. That is ridiculous. Like
I
I'm telling
know,
you.
man. Yeah, it's like a collective mental illness. It's like collective schizophrenia. And you know, a lot of these videos they get a lot of views, but it seems like
Yeah.
everyone who lives in their mom's basement has found some exposure to the world via the internet. So now they're spewing their mental illness worldwide. I don't fucking know. Yeah. So, but I don't know. I mean, you brought up the Orlando shooting. What else, other than the whole conspiracy aspect? I mean, was there anything else you wanted to talk about on that subject?
Uh,
Maybe the whole
I find it
Muslim
crazy
thing.
how it's. Oh yeah. I don't like. I hate that like the Muslims get all this like hate about certain things. Especially remember when like in 2001 like the terrorist thing stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
Like Muslims always like I don't know things always come back to them now. Like I see like everything that happens like something about terrorism and stuff like that. It's always a Muslim person.
Well, I mean, he
That's
was
what I
Muslim,
find.
and he did take credit for it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I mean, I remember in 2012 I was pro Ron Paul, and Ron Paul was a guy who was always saying oh, the terrorists, they don't hate us for our freedoms. They hate us because we've been attacking them for decades, bombing them and, taking out their leaders and installing dictators that we approve of, and a lot of shenanigans. In fact, there's one book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which I haven't read, but I heard it's a classic. It's a must read. In fact, I'll put the link to that book below, guys. But basically, the book is about a guy who was hired by the U.S. government to basically take out foreign leaders from other countries and install new dictators over there that were basically our puppets. They were puppets of the U.S. government. It was basically a way to control the fucking world via the U.S. And so in 2012, when I was pro Ron Paul, I believed this idea that the reason that there's this Islamic terror problem is because we, the U.S., have been too aggressive with our foreign policy. But then, over the past year, a few interesting things have happened. Number one, you had the Paris attack. Okay, so what did Paris, France ever do to the Middle East? Okay, I think they probably helped the U.S. when we invaded. Okay, but they weren't the head of the thing. They weren't the leaders of that thing.
Right.
And then just 6 months ago, you had the Belgium. Not even 6 months ago. It was like 4 months ago. You had the bombing in Brussels, Belgium. What the fuck did Brussels, Belgium ever do to fucking Middle East? I mean, maybe I'm not aware of what's been going on with Brussels, Belgium, but I don't know if they did shit. So I'm starting to think that there's actually a legitimate problem with this concept of radical Islamic terrorism. And it's not
Right.
just America's the big evil empire. I'm starting to think that maybe they're just fucking, there's actually a legitimate problem with this. And, with the whole Orlando guy, he claimed that he was, he said, I'm Muslim, I hate gay people, even though it turned out that he was, sort of a gay guy himself, apparently. That's the thing. Here's what I will say. I do think that, I do think that you have to be a certain type of mentally unstable to kill in the name of Islam,
Right.
And I think it doesn't matter who is doing the violence and who they're doing it in the name of, whether it's a Muslim dude shooting up 50 gay people in the name of Allah, or it's Elliot Rodger doing it because he's angry at hot women who didn't give him any pussy, or it's Memorial Day shootings in Chicago, black on black crime sprees, 50 people getting killed over the weekend. At the end of the day, it's people who are emotionally unstable enough that they're going to resort to violence because of how they feel. And to me, that's the true underlying commonality here. It's not Islam, it's not fuck, those hot girls. It's a certain type of person who's so frustrated in life that they're willing to go to such an extreme because they can't sort out their internal problems. And each individual mass shooter maniac will cling to one narrative or another to justify and rationalize why they did it. Elliot Rodger, oh, the evil slutty women. The Orlando shooter, oh, it's the fucking, it's the gays, disobeying, Sharia law or whatever. So, but then again, you look at the Quran and there are explicit commands to go kill these fucking people. So
Right.
on one level, when it comes to people like the Orlando shooter, I think you have to be a certain degree of mentally unstable. But at the same time, it is the cultural norm in some aspects of the Muslim world to say fuck gay people, to throw them off rooftops, etc. So I think it's a balance of things.
Right. And that's the same thing that goes for the Bible as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, because yesterday I was on the subway, right? And it was this guy. He was rapping about how he's so in love with Jesus and stuff like that. And he was talking about how like I wanted to refute his opinion and like his facts, have an argument with him and stuff like that. But then I was like, I'll just let him think what he wants to think. I don't want to sway him away from what he believes. So.
Mm. Well, he might have gotten a mass shooting the next
Right.
day. Who knows?
Right.
You never know, man. Yeah, dude. Well, I don't know, man. Anything else you wanted to cover?
No, that's pretty much it. I got what I wanted to say in. So.
Okay. Yeah, we've been going for about 40 minutes, so that's a pretty good combo. All right, man. Is there any maybe a Twitter or some kind of site you might want to plug before we end it?
How do I do that? Like, cause I don't know how to use Skype like that. So it's
No, you just have to. I mean, you can send me a message when we're done, and I'll put the link
yeah.
below. But if you want to
Okay.
say it here, I don't know if you have a Twitter handle. Maybe you want to just, mention it here now, or if you don't, that's cool as well.
Right.
Or maybe, maybe you haven't set up a social media yet, so you want to set it up before we're done, or not when we're done. But I'll put it in the link below. So, any of you guys want to follow him, if he creates it, I'll put the link below, and you guys can definitely click that and check it out. Did you want to say anything else before we end it?
Uh, it was this was great. I guess a great talk. It gave me a lot of like insight about certain things, certain subjects. Just see that we're both like Trump fans, and I think that's a good thing. We're
Yeah,
probably
man.
gonna get a lot of backlash for saying that,
I love it,
the
man.
white liberals and stuff.
Fuck him,
Don't
man.
care. So yeah, facts.
Fuck him.
Uh,
Fuck him.
fuck 'em. All
Yeah,
right.
man. Yeah, dude,
All
I
right.
might be in New York actually, like in a couple months. I might be there. So yeah,
Right.
man, maybe we could link up or something, hang out for an hour or two or some shit. But
Right. That'd be
yeah,
cool.
yeah, we'll talk about it. All right, guys, thank y'all for watching. As always, the links to everything we talk about, the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman down below. Donald Trump finally some with balls shirts down below. And dude, just stay on the Skype call after I end this for a few minutes. All right.
All right. Cool.
All right, guys, take care. Bye.